Well, we're a couple of minutes in, guys. I think what we might do is get started. We are recording today, and we can send this, of course, to everyone out there in webinar land and going up to YouTube. So, Glenn, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you very much, Darren. And first of all, thank you to Lucas for helping demonstrate and discuss really today's webinar around practical AI for business. One of the things that we're actually finding through our conversations with business owners is like they want AI, but what do they want it for? But they want it now, which is really quite interesting as part of a conversation starter, given that the amount of actual AI applications that are out there now, and I know Lucas can touch on that because it's actually quite mind-blowing these days as to how much is actually available, but it's really about what works for you and best for your business and how you're going to get the best outcomes from those. So without further ado, I would like to hand you over to Lucas as a bit of a start. Thank you, Lucas.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me, team. It's been awesome working with you guys, and great to keep the conversation going. I think it's very much an educational topic still, right? It's everyone's using AI in some form, but what does that actually really mean in a business? So today we want to dive into why it matters for working with people such as ourselves and Corp IT, and why you need a combination of both. What is AI? Why do we want to use AI in our business? And I'm going to open this up to the floor for everyone to interact on that topic. Dive into some AI agents from the Copilot world, the ChatGPT and the Claude, as they're the main ones that everyone's using these days. We're going to dive into shadow IT and secure AI. I'm going to let the boys dive into this because this is another hot topic that people are discussing, but not really really unsure about what that actually means. Dive into some business use cases and then some AI costs and ROI. And then we want this to be very much an interactive webinar. So please raise your hand, put a comment in the notes. If you can, take yourself off camera and video and literally bring yourself to discuss a live topic with us. I'm going to kick off with a quick video and we'll get straight into it.
Hello everyone, I'm Lucas Meadowcroft, CEO, co-founder and investor. I've spent over 2 decades in the tech space, with the last 8 years immersed in the world of artificial intelligence. What truly drives me is helping businesses unlock growth through innovation, meaningful technology and powerful human connection. At Crofty, we're not just automating processes, we're enabling businesses to rethink what's possible. From reducing manual workloads to scaling smarter and faster, our focus is on creating real impact. Ultimately, it's about increasing job satisfaction for both business owners and their teams. You Are Supported is transforming the care sector by empowering NDIS providers with intelligent human-centric systems. Through a 24/7 AI-enabled support centre, we're delivering better outcomes for participants while easing the load on carers. With Costify, we're revolutionising how construction businesses operate, using AI to capture and pass on lessons learned while providing real-time cost tracking and insights. It's about keeping projects on budget, on schedule and ahead of curve. Outside of business, I'm passionate about fitness and peak performance. As a dedicated marathon runner, I believe in pushing boundaries both physically and mentally. That passion led to Run With, a movement focused on connection through running, a platform that connects brands with running clubs, making it easier for runners to access the best gear through a curated marketplace. Pivot brings people together through sport, simplifying how players book courts, join sessions and connect, making it easier to stay active and social through the sports we love. And then there's the Mastering podcast, where I have the privilege of sitting down with people who've truly mastered their craft. From business and science to creativity and Olympic champions, it's all about unpacking the mindset behind mastery.
The reason I like to start there, 2 reasons. One, that's 100% an AI generated video that I created over 2 years ago, nearly 2.5 years ago now. So I like to take people on a bit of a journey, I guess, where AI was, where it is today and where it's coming in the near future. And then 2, it gives you a bit of insights into myself, the business and the world that we live in and how AI is affecting every industry that that exists today. So firstly, is anyone actually actively using this technology in their business? It'd be great to see if people are already diving into what we call digital twins. And please jump on here if you already are actively using it. Where I see the most, I guess, the biggest impact in what we see from a business point of view is business process. We're always repeating ourselves once, twice, 3 times. And so don't think about the deep fakes and the sales videos and the marketing videos. That's great. But think about onboarding a customer, onboarding a staff member, onboarding a contract, the whole offboarding journey. Not everyone loves to read a 50-page SOP or a business business documentation. So, people like to interact differently. And that technology from 2 years ago, fast forward to now, we can have an interactive avatar. It doesn't have to be you. There are 10,000 actors, actresses, comic characters that we can choose from. So it doesn't have to be you, but you can interact with data differently now. And what we're heavily seeing is that the new 22-year-olds that you're hiring in your business, they don't even know how to use Outlook, let alone email, let alone the way we've always done work, right? So they want to do work differently. The main thing I want to point out here, just so you understand, I guess, a bit of why we've partnered with Corp IT and why we're on board here, is we've been in AI for over 10 years now. So this is not a ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini conversation, though that heavily comes up a lot. This is about how we can, practically implement AI into businesses. So quickly, just throw it over to Darren and Glenn. If you haven't met these guys before, quickly do an introduction to each of them individually and what their specialist is within the IT sector.
So I'll go first. Darren Rath, founder and CEO of Corp IT. I'd like to say that we're a 27-year overnight success. Been in the IT space for a long time. I'm a massive propeller head. Love my IT and love the tech. And we obviously help businesses nationally with their IT. And one of the things we do very well is IT strategy. And I think there's nothing more important than strategy right now around how to keep AI safe and relevant to business. Glenn.
Thank you, Darren. And yes, I'm Glenn Noyce. I'm the General Manager here at Corp IT. I've been here for almost 3 years, but I was actually a client for 8 years previously. So I've been part of the thread, which I like to say, for the best part of 11 years. Now, what I love to do is actually work with our clients to solve their problems. And what I'm finding is this particular topic hits nice and closely because, as I touched on at the start, everyone wants it, they want it now, but they don't know what to do with it. So this is one of the really important webinars that I find, is to try and give information that might flick a light on, so to speak, as to where that could assist. So it's good to meet you all.
Love it. And it's definitely a hot topic. And so not so much of, hey, can you sell me a Copilot license, but actually doing something with that Copilot license, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll quickly kick off with how I'd like to try and explain what AI is inside a business, right? Because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I'd like to break into 3 aspects around implementing AI automation to a business. You've got the business process management, the robotic process automation, and then the AI component. Everyone just thinks, grab an AI app, throw it in the business, and next minute, everything magically works. We're not quite there yet. Business process management is the core thing we see missing anytime you try to implement AI. And that is, start with the actual problem. Create the business structure, create the business flow, create the business outcome, really document that and create the entire flow map. Once you figure that out, then everything just becomes a lot easier. It's the number one thing that's always missing. The next thing that you want to keep in mind is robotic process automation. The easiest way to think about this is like copying and pasting of data. So think of when an email comes in into your inbox. In that inbox, you typically have an email, you have a spreadsheet, you have a PDF document, and you need to put all that data into your CRM or your ERP system. You still have staff members in your office today manually keying in that data. RPA copies and pastes that data for you, so you don't physically have to do that. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like today. Where the AI component is a decision-making component. Most people don't realize this, but us humans, we make 10,000 decisions a day, whether you like it or not, whether you with your mind or with your gut feel. And so that AI component, actually, if we take that RPA example, say we copy and paste data from an email or a spreadsheet into a CRM, what we normally find is not every data set or data point is on that, say, spreadsheet or that email. And because you get that same order from that same customer every single week, you just know what they mean. And so because you've been doing it for 3 years or 10 years, you manually type that data in that's missing from that email or spreadsheet. That's AI. That's the decision-making component. So a combination of all 3 equals AI automation in your business. So what are some misconceptions and realities when it comes to AI in the world that we live in today? AI is a one-stop shop. It's magically going to solve everything. We're not there yet. It works on targeted use cases, which I'll show you in a sec. AI operates completely independently on its own. I do not recommend this. You're the expert. Your team are the expert. Always have human oversight. AI is going to replace all our jobs. This is what the media keeps telling the world. There's no evidence whatsoever that even predicts this happening. It's a lot of fear mongering out there, but it's definitely redefining job roles. I wouldn't want to step out of school or university and go on and be an admin clerk. Admin's 100% gone, but it's creating new opportunities. The number one opportunity created this month alone is an AI person, AI developer, and an AI employee. Globally, it's the number one people are looking for, with no context, no business case, no KPIs, no position descriptions. Just everyone's looking for an AI person. And AI is only for big data. It used to be when we first got into this space 10 years ago. We created our first machine learning, deep learning, large language model, what you call now an AI agent. Back then, we needed 50,000 lines of data points on a spreadsheet, and it took us 9 months to build. Today, if you guys emailed me a spreadsheet with 50 lines of data points, I can create you a mini AI agent today, in less than a couple of hours, compared to 9 months and millions of dollars back then. Why I say that is because now technology has come to a point that it's now accessible by everyone. Micro, SME, mid, large, doesn't matter who you are. Everyone is now can now grab this. All right, so for the people listening and joining in today, I'm keen to get an understanding of what you would love to solve in your business. Why are you wanting AI? What is the biggest frustration? What is the key aspect you'd love to get out of today's session, and what can I help you solve? Anyone want to chime in first? Anyone speak, or is everyone on mute? Where to start? That's a great question, Angelo.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great question, because knowing what to solve, and this is the thing that really is hard to understand, right? AI can do everything, which means nothing to everyone, right? Because you need to understand what it can actually do. So I'll give you a quick insight into a survey that we've been collecting data from around the world on why businesses are implementing or wanting to implement AI into their company. Still, the number one today is improving efficiency. That's the number one reason people are going to using AI. Then cost reduction, enhancing the customer experience. Data-driven decision-making is actually my favorite, because if we can give the information to our team and they can make decisions that are escalating to us as leaders, how would that be? How would that make you feel? How would that be for the whole company? Helps us scale, accuracy, consistency, and then slowly coming into as regulatory or compliance requirements.
Just very quickly, Lucas, before you continue, Justin has just sent a message saying the video and microphone have been disabled. Is everyone okay? Can they hear and see okay?
Probably they just can't speak, maybe. Kristen, you'll have to handle that one for us.
Yeah, it's okay. Angelo's responded already.
Over to the master.
Thank you. Ryan's good. Yep. We're okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you, everyone.
I'm really keen to get people's thoughts on this one, so please keep your messages flowing through. But we believe the future is about using smart solutions to cut out the busy work so teams can focus on what really matters, creating genuine job satisfaction. Everyone always says to me they're busy. Unless you literally are retired, everyone always uses the word busy. And the thing that really grates me is busy is a really negative word. But with the power of AI now, we can take that to genuine job satisfaction. There's nothing else you get from today's session. This is the only thing I'd love you to take away, which is, when was the last time you asked your staff member what they truly love to do? And when was the last time you asked yourself what you truly love to do? Once you understand what you love doing, then you go, great, I want to eliminate everything I don't like doing. If you automated all that, which is possible now, how would that make you feel? How would the culture of the company be? I think that's an absolute game changer conversation to have with yourself. All right, let's dive into a couple of live interactions and demos. There's going to be people using all different tools, right? And then we'll dive into some security conversations with the boys, because this is a hot topic. So we've got ChatGPT, we've got Microsoft Copilot, and we've got Claude. One of these three apps is typically being used by most people in most organizations now without understanding where your data is going, right? Is anyone using any other tools outside of these three? So I'm going to kick off with, I'll start with ChatGPT first because it seems to be the most go-to, and over 1 billion people now are using this particular software.
Just Lucas, while you're doing that,
Yep.
Justin has responded. Perplexity, Lagora.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that's some other consumer apps. Great. I like Perplexity as well. I'm going to show these three from an AI agent point of view because I think it's really important to understand what's possible today. If you haven't already built an AI agent, this is in ChatGPT, but I'll also show the other two. You literally can hit browse agents here, and you can create either a brand new agent. But what I love that ChatGPT has done is implemented these templates, which means you can go through these templates that they've already pre-built, choose one of these templates. It pre-configures the apps you want to configure into your stack, the capabilities it's going to have, and then also all the backend context. And context is super, super important, right? By default, I can now choose exactly what I want this particular sales AI agent that I just chose from this browsing this solution to do. The really crazy thing is, once you configure these into your backend and hit create, within a few minutes, it's set up and created for you by default, which is pretty crazy to think, right? Because if I switch over to, and I'll show you how this actually uses in real life. If I switch over to Copilot, which everyone's also recommending, okay, so look, not even a few minutes anymore, it's less than 20 seconds. And now what I can do from an instruction point of view is go through and update my instructions on how I want that to work, overlay it with my own data set, and literally have the conversation with this agent on how I want it to actively run, right? Now, I always recommend you spend a good half an hour to an hour going through the prompts, going through the data. Don't just hit go. Like, you really want to make sure you're spending a bit of time actively getting this up and running, right? Don't just spend 2 seconds. Here we go. It's applying all the skills now. It's adding all the skills in here. So this is something you'd have to manually do before. How I want this agent to work. What do I want the outcome to be? Now you can do it pretty straightforward. So I'll switch a gear and just bring it into an agent that I've created previously. The great thing about these agents is you can do it from within the agent itself, or when you're creating a new chat, you can bring in your agents as well, right? So you don't have to then think about, okay, where am I working from? How am I going to work from this particular scenario? You can bring in these agents. If I bring up this agent here, sales agent, I've got too many in here to find, and I can just type a conversation. It's going to refer this agent. Now, what is an agent? An agent is doing something, right? This is something you got to really keep in mind, right? So when you're asking an agent to do something, it's literally going to do something, right? Which means it's going to look at your computer. In this case, it's connected to my Outlook. It's connected to my HubSpot. You got to be really careful about when you ask it to do stuff because it will do it. And we've seen really bad cases of people said, "Can you clean up my emails?" And 10,000 emails have been deleted. So you need to be very, very careful of doing this. But that particular agent, it would be less than probably, I don't know, maybe if you put really good effort in, probably half an hour to get up and running within ChatGPT. I'm going to dive into security in a sec, but I wanted to show you the differences if you're then comparing it to, say, Copilot, because a lot of people are on Copilot these days and go, how do we create an agent within, say, Copilot? Now, the thing is, within Copilot, when you're creating a new agent, once again, different to ChatGPT is by default, it doesn't really do anything. That's where a lot of people get confused. So I would always say, set up a separate conversation, separate chat, and then really fill in all the data and instructions. It's a whole different conversation, but I would say it takes you about 2 to 4 hours to get an agent set up properly within Copilot. The main difference is now you get to choose, do you want to use an Anthropic model or do you want to use a OpenAI model? Now, the core thing in here, and we'll dive into security, is if it says managed, it means the data set stays within your ecosystem. If it's not managed, your data is going back into the ether, i.e., say Anthropic servers in the US, and then coming back into your ecosystem. Keep in mind, I just showed you ChatGPT. All my data's gone to ChatGPT servers, right? So you got to really be careful around that. So I'm going to pause for a sec, pass it over to the gents, and then we'll dive into some security conversations, and then come back to this briefly.
Thank you, Luke. And before we do, we believe we've enabled your microphones to everyone. So if you want to speak via your mic, you should be able to unmute it. So just FYI.
Yep.
All right.
All right, so let's just dive into some, if there's no questions, security around the two aspects before I continue on, because I think this is super, super important that most people don't realize.
All right. Did you want to run with that one, Darren, or shall I?
Yeah, well, I can start, Glenn. I think we can do it together. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting, Lucas, that you're bringing up 365 security. I think that's the great part about AI and automation. If you are running in Microsoft 365 land and you've got a tenancy, then as long as you have a secure and a good security Microsoft security score, then you're going to have a really good secure method to be able to deal with AI and automation. And bearing in mind what Lucas just said, that that ChatGPT or OpenAI is managed inside your tenancy and lives and stays there, whereas Anthropic and Claude currently will transfer to the US, go into their model and come back. And I think this is the important part that we're starting to see. The term that we're often seeing a lot of is shadow AI. And AI is in your business now, and not knowing what it is or where it is a challenge for a lot of people. And a lack of strategy and a lack of guardrails, I think, is something that obviously we can assist with, but it's something you really should have a look at and where that should be. Your thoughts, Glenn?
Just to add to that, thank you, Darren. One of the things, I just touch on security at a different type of level, because as Darren rightly said, be very careful as to which AI application in which you're using from a business sense as to where it's actually going and ending up. The other part to think about, which a lot of people do tend to forget from time to time, is what actual data is available within your organization that people probably shouldn't be seeing, i.e. what people's remuneration is when it comes to a finance position. It's really important to really understand that side of thing, because it's so easy to get a prompt and get access to it if it hasn't been set up correctly. Really, really, really important around that particular part and componentry as well. And as Darren touched on as well around the shadow, now this is one of the bits when it's really important, I guess, as business owners, is to understand what AI tools are currently in your business that you might not even know of. Who has access to what, who's actually using them, what type of sensitive information is available. So they're the things that are available. And we've got the tools to actually assist with that quite quickly to give you a report as to what's currently within your own four walls as well.
There's a lot of chat happening, just to add to that, guys. A lot of chat happening, for example, from accountants, where people in the organisation may have a personal ChatGPT account, and they'll take their P&L and balance sheet for the company and throw it into a personal ChatGPT account. That's not good. No. Don't do that.
Why not, Darren?
Oh my goodness!
Once you hit send, everyone's got it.
The reason why
they've got your tax. Sorry, they've got your tax. They've got your tax file number. They've got a range of highly security-wise things they shouldn't have.
Yeah. I see that they've actually removed that statement anymore as well, because it's confusing a lot of people. I'm just going to share my screen again. I just opened up a new window, and you'd always see at the bottom of the any of these chat windows, hey, if you're on the enterprise plan, your data's secure, we're not learning from your data. That's actually been removed now because it was confusing a lot of people, right? And the reason I wanted to bring this up from a security point of view before I dive into some case studies is people think if I go to here and I connect a connector, and then whatever connector I'm connecting into, my data is safe, which is great from a productivity point of view. but your data, you no longer have control over the data. Now we have to trust someone. Do we trust Microsoft? Do we trust Google? Do we trust HubSpot? Who do we trust? And the question is, do you trust these large language model companies such as Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI to also have your data? Verdict's out, but I'm just letting you know. I guess you got to keep this in mind when you're setting it up. But you can set up your structure in a way that you can then secure what you're looking to achieve, which is super interesting. I'm going to swap topics now because we've just hit over 50,000 AI apps that exist in the world. 50,000 AI apps, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. And this is the perfect conversation for Shadow IT and Shadow AI, because I can guarantee your staff members, whoever's tuning in today, your staff members are using one or many of these 50,000 apps. Now, where are they located? Where's the data located? Who's behind it? Who are the founders? Have they raised capital? Are they going to be in business for in the next 12 months? There's so many questions you need to think about when grabbing one of these tools off the shelves and then rolling it out into your business. I highly recommend you do it from an experimental point of view, but don't do it and then roll it out without having all these questions answered. And then definitely get your IT provider in play, like get the corp IT guys to actually do an assessment first. You just don't know where your data's going. It's a concern. But why I say do it from an experimental point of view is because we're not 10-year-old kids anymore. So we lose imagination of what's possible with AI. If you grab one of these tools off the shelf, you experiment with it, you go, oh, is that what's possible? Then you figure it out and then go build your own agent inside your own ecosystem, say in 365 with your own Copilot, for example. Because if you do that, then you'll be an absolute game changer in your business. All right. Any questions so far? I'm going to keep moving through. These are the main organizations that you most likely would have seen out there on the market. One thing I want to let you know before we dive into case studies is every different model or different company has their own personality. So it depends on who you choose, depends on what outcome you're going to get. Most of these companies have 10 to 15 models, right? We're just used to seeing ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, right? Which is only one of the models. A really good example is Google DeepMind. They released a disease-solving model, being they release this for free to every scientist in the world. They're trying to solve cancer. Hey, if you want to really solve a particular disease, let's call it cancer. You'll have this scientific model that we've released for free. You'll take the model and then you'll then keep building on top of that model to try and solve that disease. To the point they're now believing one of the cancers will be solved within the next 18 months, where only a few years ago, that was like a 15-year journey. So they're doing a lot in that space. So each of these models solve different problems. So depending on what you're trying to solve in your business, depends on who you use. These are the main frontier models that most of you would have seen or heard. I'm not going to dive into everyone today, but horses for courses. Start with the business problem, start with what you're solving, and then figure out which of the model is going to solve it for you. The great thing about AI, you put your business case in there and say, which model should I use? It will tell you what model to use to solve it. So you don't have to think about this anymore, right? It can do it for you. The only thing to keep in mind from a data point of view, like we already mentioned, security is my personal belief is if you're in an ecosystem such as Microsoft 365, just use Copilot, but then just look behind the window within Copilot and just double check you can secure it. It's super required. Then the big conversations about open source. Why do I bring this up? Because there's a big push in the government in the US around what should we keep as a frontier model, what should we allow as an open source model. People are now pushing away and now having their own hardware locally to get away from spending all this money with these tokens online. These are the main open source models, but there's like 50 open source models now. Yes, a lot of them are from China, but there's a lot coming out of Europe. Once again, the question is, who do you trust to own your data? So with an open source model, you physically can take a copy of it, put it in your own infrastructure, and then you can keep building from it. The question is there backdoors? I'm not a security expert here, but just be careful when you're diving into this, right? Because it does open a can of worms, so it means you can run locally. And they're even predicting a model now will be small enough to fit onto a USB drive, and by the end of the year, fit into, say, Meta glasses and then run models locally. So then you don't even have to worry about having a device anymore or a computer. It's moving pretty fast. Okay, I'm going to dive into some case studies. Do you want to quickly just touch on anything else on Shadow IT before I do that, or Shadow AI?
I guess from my perspective, like I touched on before, the whole thing about Shadow AI and Lucas, said after I'd completed was that you don't know what's currently in your business from what your actual staff are being able to download and grab and use, and then how they're actually connecting that to your own data from that perspective. So when you have a look at the compliance side of things, especially in the data leakage, it's pretty dangerous is the word in which I tend to use, because once it's out there, it's gone. That's the problem. So what we have is some tools where we actually have the ability to provide you with a report to give you what is currently in your ecosystem, in your infrastructure, who has access to what, which I believe is on the next slide. If you wanted to scan the QR code to actually provide you information for it. No,
Once it's out there, it's gone.
And the data's coming to us too, by the way. It's not going anywhere else, just so they're sure. I see, Peggy, you want to ask a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, certainly can.
Hi, sorry, I came in a little bit later, so you may have covered this, but if this Shadow AI is available, is there a way that we can check whether our staff are downloading or have gone in to take stuff from our system and copied it and taken it home, or put it on another something else? Is there a way of checking that out?
We can check to see what type of AI tools are currently within your ecosystem and what's being used and by who. What they do with that isn't something we can go too deep into at this point in time, but we can start that conversation by assisting you with that. Yes.
So you can check and say, oh yes, John, Stephen, and Sarah have been in and downloaded or have done whatever they've done, X, Y, and Z. Over to you, Peggy, kind of thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it becomes a cultural conversation, right? Because it's no longer a technology conversation. It's now a people, culture, mindset change conversation.
Yeah. And I think the very bottom sentence of that particular screen helps set the precedence, because if you haven't got an AI policy, we strongly recommend that you consider one and implement one. That way you have it set and it makes your business, quote unquote, much safer when it comes to protecting your data.
Yeah. And that's just not from having a document that people follow and guide, but actually setting an AI policy in the actual infrastructure too, which dives into the security aspect. I might hold the security conversation for after, if you're okay, and I'll dive into some case studies and then we'll come back, because I think it's super important.
Sounds great.
To cover off. But please, just like Peggy, just any other questions you guys might have, please ask them and we'll dive into them. All right, so I want to kick off with share this particular one. So there's a couple of different ways that most people use AI or AI agents in a business today, and I want to give you some examples of what we're physically seeing out there on site. So this particular client, they use a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of PDF documents, a lot of data from multiple different systems. And the issue that these guys were having was when they go on site, an architect or a developer asking all the questions and capturing all the data, sending it back to their head office, and then waiting 3 or 5 days for the information, right? So this is a Teams bot that was built, which integrates with their HubSpot, NetSuite, and technical PDF documents. This is one way of interacting with data. You're all used to the chatbot style, which is you ask a question, you get an answer. This is one way of interacting with your own data, with your own data set, which you can do somewhat within Copilot, but if not within Dataverse and the AI Foundry ecosystem, because you're connecting multiple different data sets at the same time, right? But the idea is to be able to not just ask a question with one bit of data point, but your entire ecosystem within 365, within your ERP, within your CRM, and have all that data flow back through pretty quickly and pretty nicely. But what's really cool, you can do this is set what I call guardrails. How do you want people in your company to use this AI? So this example, I need to quote up a 70 square meter fix. Here's a drop down. Here's literally items that you have to choose through this drop down process. Why? Because you don't want just a back and forth conversation. You want to set parameters to how you want people to interact with AI so you get the right response. In this case, it's quoting, so they want to make sure they're answering all these questions to be able to grab the right quote or the right information. Another example in here, which I love, is around like looking at a lot of technical PDF documents. So what colors does the VIRA come in? Looks through SharePoint, looks at the 60,000 plus SharePoint files they've got, brings back the brochure for that particular VIRA standard, and they can click a button and then physically show that brochure on site on their phone directly to the person without trying to hunt through or back to head office to find that information. Then take it a step further, what fire rating does that particular VIRA come in, and then goes and finds a fire rating brochure. So you can do that really quickly and really easily by just having a quick back and forth conversation with it. Similar to ChatGPT, you can make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you get it right, get it wrong. You can make mistakes, and it's just data matching, so it knows what you're talking about. But what I think is the number one favorite part about this is all data, right? So the biggest thing we see of anyone adopting AI is user adoption, mindsets change what we've always done. We've always used that spreadsheet for 20 years. Why do we have to change? So doing like a usage report in this case, who's using it? What are they using it for? How are they using it? What results are you getting? Give that back to your internal person, your project lead. Get them to have a conversation with your staff and get them really actively using it inside now. I think if there's no point buying licenses and just rolling it out without having a user training component, because it's moving so fast. And if you don't try to have that structure, then most people will not get the ROI or outcome you're looking for. Difference from creating an AI agent, say through Copilot or Claude, versus properly baked in. As an example for this particular one for this client, that was a 60 grand project that took about nearly 5 months to build. But it's all around the ROI, right? So you got to make sure that the business case you're putting forward, there's an actual ROI. So for these guys, it's only a handful of people using it so far. It's already 675K ROI. And they already said to me they're not hiring 2 more sales admin staff for their office because AI can now help the sales guys out on site. But then from a licensing point of view, this is where you talk to your IT team. So Corp IT can help you to figure out what licensing you need and then what the token usage will also look like, because at the end of the day, there's this whole conversation about token usage and some companies spending $20,000 a month for not much productivity gain. So just trying to balance out how much you should spend on a monthly basis. And this is not, this is not a per user per license conversation anymore. This is a usage conversation. The more you use it, the more it costs. So you got to make sure you balance out that business case, right? So it makes sense. Another example of interacting with AI, and I love this example because this is a slower rollout. Most people just say rip the band-aid off, put AI in, and everyone will figure it out, which I don't always recommend. I love this one because it's a very manual process automation with having people in the process, right? So this example here, they have 7 staff in the department, 6 staff are physically keying in orders, 40 to 60 orders every single day, then looking at a glorified spreadsheet for the zone mapping, and then making decisions based on all that information. I'm going to bring up a live example of how this physically looks and feels in their organization with some data behind it too. So this is an Outlook plugin. So it's another way of interacting with AI is having an Outlook plugin in the side of your inbox, because most companies still run off Outlook. And as you go through the different emails that come in, AI is looking at that data and then updating the information in the Outlook plugin for you. Why is this important? Because your team members are then doing validation points. They go through and they validate what is happening in the actual process. Is the address right? Is the product they're looking at right? What's the time frame they're wanting it to be delivered by? What product have we actually looked at choosing? So your team can go through step by step, look at the validation points, and then hit accept. Nothing has gone to your CRM just yet. Nothing has gone to your ERP until your team have done all the validation points. Once they do, they hit accept, and then it pushes to your CRM or ERP system. Why I think this is really, really important is because you're bringing your staff on the journey. You're not just ripping the Band-Aid off and saying, hey, we're doing this fully automated behind the scenes, which you can totally do. You don't need people, you don't need this in place. But I think this is a great way of bringing your team along the journey from having them interacting with it. So please, stop me and ask me any questions as we go through this, and I'll show you the actual admin related side behind the scenes as well. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is live data. So this is from 13th of May. What's that? Just a month and a half or so. And so what we're doing here is looking for the accuracy levels from AI. A lot of people say they don't want to go with AI because it can't do it 100%. I go, well, what if you could do it 75%? Then you've only got 25% that you've got to do manually. So how we want to predict the information as it's being processed is what is it getting right and what is it getting wrong? And so you'll see here, it's getting customer name a lot of the time right, customer name may be wrong, order numbers, product terms, etc., etc. And then we dive into it, right? And we go, why is the order number wrong? And so once we dive into this, because this is live, we would go back to here and go, what we've realized when these orders come through is we've literally seen some emails come in and the email said, please order me what I had last time with no information. So, well, that's why there's no order number, because on the email, you as a human being behind the scenes, you just know what they order every week, right? And so then you got to train AI to get to the point of going, okay, if this happens, this question comes in, this is what happens, then you train the AI to learn that aspect. And it's where a lot of people just realize or think, grab an AI tool, plug it in, and it magically knows everything. You got to teach it. Humans are driving AI right now. AI is not driving us. And I say right now, maybe different in 5 years. And so you need to understand where do you fit and what is your comfortable level to go live. And so for these guys, if we get to 75% accuracy, and then out of a team of 7 staff members and we go live, that means we're only then looking at the 25% that needs to be physically manually updated or done by a human. Then you keep teaching it. So over weeks, over months, you just keep teaching it to learn the different aspects. And then you can start seeing the trends and what do those trends look like. And so every time you teach it, like it learns, it drops off, learns, drops off, learns, drops off. And the idea is that you see this accuracy going up and up and up till you get to that 98, 99% accuracy once it gets to that point. There's always that 1 or 2 or 10 items that happen every single week that people just use their gut feel and make up decisions. People go, no, that never happens in my company. It's all data driven. I've never seen it ever. So you just need to be realistic with that. Any questions on that one?
It's I like the what you've done there with the plugin coming into your emails and the agent that you've actually got there that goes over to your assistant. That's how much time has that saved you and your team? It's out of curiosity.
This example here.
Yeah.
Well, out of the team of 7, 75, well, nearly 75% accuracy now. So, which means it's processing 75% of all emails automatically. So 25% are remaining right now.
And
so out of the team of 7,
it's a different one to answer, but it's a few. That's what I'm saying.
6 staff members full time. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's why I wanted to, I guess, highlight that a little bit.
And that's only within a few months. We're not even live yet, right? So we don't go live for a few more months because we want to get the accuracy level high. But it's already saving essentially 6 staff members to be more proactive in that company.
Wow.
Which always comes back down to the end result, right? Which is, what are we doing with those staff? So for these guys, we're not going live for a few months, but the idea is to operationally of that whole team to saving 13 plus hours a day, which I know it's going to be a lot more because we're already seeing it. But you always got to set yourself an outcome or what you're trying to set out to achieve versus what reality looks like. I do like this one because it's a bit of a slower process. What we're predicting, so fixed cost 70K as a project. What we're predicting though is it should be a 1.2 mil ROI for this organization, because those 6 staff members will now become proactive, making phone calls, chasing up new opportunities, closing more orders, rather than sitting behind the computer doing data entry. So flipping the script of what that role was to being a more proactive role, which will generate more income for the business. We're predicting it to be about $450 a month in licensing costs to run that particular AI model. So yeah, huge opportunity, but I think people don't realize what's possible in a company. This slide deck 100% will be shared with you guys. There are about 50 plus different case studies in here. But I wanted to just switch back to secure IT with a few minutes to go, because it's super, super important. So any other questions on that, guys?
Yeah, random question. Of your 50 slides, any of them in medical space?
We're currently doing a medical one right now, but not in the actual slide deck, because we're finding medical organizations are adopting the off-the-shelf tools slowly, but they're not embracing what we call practical AI to, how do I say this nicely? Removing what humans do.
Rip off the Band-Aid, just say it.
Yeah, ripping the Band-Aid. We're not quite seeing it just yet, especially hospitals, private practices. We're probably still 3 years away, I'm going to say, before we start seeing it in that space. Because confidential data, do we trust it? Do we not trust it? There's this whole compliance conversation. It's a trust conversation.
Yeah, and it's exposure as well, because it's the doctors that end up being liable, and that's potentially an expensive error to make.
100%.
Okay, so in 3 years' time, I should look you up.
Can we do it today? Yes, we can. It's just getting the mindset around trust, which honestly, if you put the time and effort in, and this is a great segue actually, because it all comes down to security. If you put the time and effort in to secure your technology stack properly and your data properly, then you shouldn't have to worry about that conversation. Glenn or Darren, want to dive in here?
I think you hit the nail on the head without going too much into it, because the last thing I want to do is actually have a discussion around fear, because that's not, for me, that's not quite the case as such. It's just making sure that you've got the right security measures in place that's going to protect your organisation and yourself. And that's absolute key, real key.
And I think that the space is moving quickly, and I think, like anything in business, if you've got a strategy and a plan, you're communicating that and cascading that message to your staff and building a culture, you're going to get great ROI out of this. And security should always be in IT part of the journey, as you said there, Lucas. I mean, this has been probably a lot of people drinking from the fire hose type presentation. We've moved really quick through terms like Dataverse and 50,000 AI models and apps and 15 different LLM models. So, and tokenomics and all these sort of things. And I think that where do you start was one of the very first questions answered. And I think the very first thing to do is to have a chat internally with the stakeholders. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to be? And if you are determining it is a trust conversation, which 9 times out of 10 it will be. And interestingly enough, KPMG did a recent survey, and it was facilitated through the University of Melbourne. 47 countries were surveyed, and Australia ranked last, not the last third or the quartile, last out of 47 countries on trust for AI. Lucas and I have talked about this over several times, and they called it out as 30%. Lucas said, I think that's way too high for what we're seeing. So I think trust is a massive issue. And if you put secure guardrails around the approach, that I think is the most important thing. I think the second thing is, down at the recent Australian Financial Review Summit, we had CEOs from Commonwealth Bank, with Bunnings, Woolworths, Australia Post. We had the co-founder for Anthropic, a range of people on these panels and chats. Scott Farquhar, who's one of the co-founders from Atlassian. They all said the same thing, to pretty much what would they do different. We'd get started earlier. and we get stuck in earlier. And I think you tie that back to Lucas's comment before of reimagine your imagination. Think and act like a 10-year-old, and what can you light up with AI? That's the important part. And as business owners and founders here, if you want to de-risk yourself, know what's in your organization with shadow AI now, and then have a conversation with people in your IT to make sure you know where your data lives and what is safe and what is not. Because it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Yeah, 100%. The good thing about, I guess, from a security point of view, if people are worrying or thinking about, how do I make sure I secure my data? Right now, if you're in the 365 ecosystem, you can somewhat be comfortable with the Microsoft agreement around OpenAI. Anthropic should be there by Christmas this year, right? To also have that agreement in place. So keep that in mind, that it's not just a wild, wild west out there, or kind of is, but there's regulations come into play, especially from the EU. EU's driving a lot of these regulations, and they're forcing these companies to consider our data and our security posture as well. All right, so then on to the most important part of the session today is, I think the boys already hit the nail on the head, but from a shadow IT point of view, do you guys just want to explain the process you go through? Because I think Peggy asked the question before. It'd be good to dive into a bit more detail around this. I think it's one of the most important things that every organization should do today, because whether you want to know it or not, your staff are using one of these 50,000 tools that are out there.
Yeah, it's a bit scary. 50,000. I can't believe it's got to that number already, or thereabouts. That's actually mind boggles me with regards to that amount. But yeah, thank you, Lucas. So essentially what we do here, team, is that if you're wanting us to actually review your environment and give you a bit of an update as to what is currently within your ecosystem without you knowing, you just provide us your details here and we'll come to you directly. We've actually got a number of tools which we actually deploy in a very short period of time that gives us a full, thorough report, like we touched on earlier, Peggy, around who has what. And then what we can do is provide that data and report to you, as well as next steps and recommendations as to what that looks like, just to try and bring everything back in your control, as opposed to it not being.
Yeah, and I think Peggy's question and statement was quite valid, which was, what if, is there any way of going backwards? So if my data's already in these tools and it's already out there, what do I do? It's like, honestly, there is no answer. So you just got to get on top of it and try and stop it from happening in the first place. Yeah,
it's like anything. It's knowing what you do know. It's more so trying to control what you don't as much as possible and trying to be in front of that.
Yeah, that's right. So we can take these webinars in many different directions. Keen for anyone thoughts or comments or questions before we wrap up. I know that was a very shot fire, lots of information in a very short period of time. We can easily dive into any particular topic for hours and hours and hours and hours upon end.
I've got a question, and fitting in with the practical AI for business. For small, medium enterprises, weighing up the pros and cons of going with mainstream AI agents and tools versus developing your own agents internally behind a Microsoft 365 environment. Just at a high level, what are the pros, what are the cons of each?
The pro is they've made it really simple and easy to get up and running. So I'll give you some insights into these consumer apps. A consumer app being a Claude or a ChatGPT, right, or a Gemini. These consumer apps, these businesses have spent millions and millions of dollars to make the user journey and user interface smooth, so you keep going back and spending more money with them and staying on their platform and not leaving. They've made it so simple that I can, like I showed you before with ChatGPT or even Claude, can do this. Within a few minutes, you can have an entire agent up and running. A few minutes. If you move that over to, say, Copilot, it's like a 2 to 4 hour process. Connections and integrations, because there's a big security layer in place, right? Pros and cons: ChatGPT and Claude up and running in a few minutes. Zero security, zero protocols. Keep that in mind. Microsoft a few hours, but then you've got all the protocols you have in place from your environment to keep your data secure. So I'll let you take that as you what we're seeing though on the front line. A lot of people are going towards Claude, not considering the security risk and not realizing until 3 months later and going, oh shite, all our data's now out there and accessible by everyone in the whole company and now the world. What do we do? Well, it's done. We can only put the security in place now to try and stop it happening again. But it's all about productivity gains is what we're seeing in the market. Don't know if that answers your question. Was it Justin?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
I think just to add to that, Justin, I think depending on your 365 tenancy and how it's set up, it does have access natively to all of your data and under the security structure for your staff that is all in place. So I think that's a good takeaway for the Microsoft space as well. And you can access Claude and Copilot within the Copilot and co-work. And I think that Microsoft, while they're behind right now, they definitely will be catching up, but they always have security first as an option.
Yeah, we're a small medium enterprise, but we're at that fork in the road where we're trying to work out, do we realize the opportunities that are with the consumer-based products versus invest into developed business processes and automation within the 365 environment, and trying to assess what's the risk of obsolescence, because we've seen technologies that become obsolete in no time with devices, but what is that with AI? Are there apps that'll get taken over that become redundant? All of those kind of things are the sort of the real questions we ask ourselves every day.
Yeah. What we're seeing on the ground is anyone turning over $50 or more, focusing on the more of the security side and doing it properly. Businesses that are turning over less than 50 million, usually, there's a few different cases here, but usually under 50 million, they're just going all in on Claude and ChatGPT and not caring about security aspects. I think it's a business model / risk mindset conversation.
Yeah, and we're sort of that bracket was exactly where we are, but future state is higher than that. So we're trying to juggle up both.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a juggle, right? Because you got to make a decision which way to go. I'll quickly just show you my screen and just show you one thing before we wrap up, just so you understand where this world's going. I just bring up our meeting agent that I've built. You'll see down the bottom here on the right-hand side, it's got Claude Opus 4.7 for 4.8, and it's got experimental. Now, these have been out for 3 months, 6 weeks. Like, these have been out for a long time. But even Microsoft itself, from a guardrails point of view, is still classing them as experimental because they haven't gone through all their rigor and protocols to secure them. So you're always going to be 1, 2, 3 models behind in, say, a Microsoft or a Google ecosystem when you're connecting other models, because they're doing all their due diligence for you. So then you don't have to worry about from a security layer once they do go live.
Yeah. And obviously conscious of time, Luke, so I'll finish with one last question for yourself. With your experience that you found with the business that you've done in the last 10 years working in AI, if we go back to what this webinar is, where do we start? What have you found the most common place for a business to start with in an AI world?
These little devices, we're seeing lots and lots of uptake. This is called a Claude. So this is a meeting. People have a lot of meetings for the sake of having meetings. So if we can capture the data and then we can automate the information off the back of the data, we're seeing a lot of that. Sales meetings, operational meetings, customer meetings, vendor meetings, whatever meeting you have. So that set you up for success, so you never have to worry about the meeting process again. We're seeing a lot of quoting, estimating, tender writing, report writing. They're probably the biggest ones where it's like a lot of manual data processing to create tenders, create reports, create the quote, create the estimations. And so we're seeing a lot of that because you've got to grab data from a lot of different places, including like government legislations and council websites and pulling data from Google Maps. And like you've got to pull data from a lot of places to, say, create a tender or create a proposal. So they're probably the low-hanging fruit that we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry, Lucas, what did you hold up and say this is what you have at meetings?
Claude.
Wallet.
It's P.
That's
Claude.
Claude with a P.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pull it.
Hard to see in my background.
PLAUDE. What it does,
No, no.
Peggy, it records meetings and transcribes it, which gives you the ability to actually automate the transcription thereafter to get the summary and/or actions.
And is that an app you can get from the App Store, or is that a physical thing
this
you've
is
got to
a
buy?
$300 device. It's a physical device. The reason this is better than most of your phones is it's got 4 microphones. And so I can be in a super loud environment, like a concert, a loud cafe, on a construction site, and I can have a conversation, and it blocks every other noise out, and it captures the conversation like nearly perfectly in a really loud environment. Where a lot of the devices, like your phone, they're just not built for it.
Yeah.
And
then
Peggy,
you
I've been
attach
using
it to
one.
something to get the minutes. You must. How does it give you the minutes on an email or on a note?
Yeah, so what it
However you
does,
want.
Peg,
Yeah, go on. Go, Darren.
I've been using it myself also, Peggy, for a couple of months, and it's a great device, and it transcribes, but then it also auto learns the type of meetings you have and gives you those summaries. So to give you meeting notes, action points, and also things to follow up, points you may have missed. And then as Lucas said, so basically what you're doing is capturing the human intelligence or the human conversation part of your workday and plugging that in to your meetings workflow. And it's a really great way to do that.
Okay, cool. Amazon?
For example, Peggy, when you teach behind the scenes, you teach it the type of meetings you're having, but then you also integrate into your practice management system, your CRM, your ERP system. So, for example, for a client we just finished this with, they go on site to see a client, and it looks at the calendar and knows who they're seeing, the time they're seeing him, and then pulls the data from their CRM or ERP system, in this case, NetSuite, pulls the data from NetSuite, goes, I'm seeing this person, it pulls that together, what the meeting's about. It then pulls the transcription off the back of the meeting, and then it physically goes and creates a quote inside NetSuite for them off the conversation. So
Okay.
from just having a meeting through to now a quote's ready to be reviewed to go live.
So what I've done, Peggy, I just put a URL in the chat. Yeah. So you might want to just quickly copy that, grab that.
I have.
Okay.
No,
you're welcome.
Just opened it. I was like, he's going to close it soon, so I just grabbed it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And the minutes always make you sound a lot smarter than you actually were in the meeting.
I don't know about that, Justin. I like to think that,
I doubt that's possible for me, but we'll give it
a go. I got another question, if I may, and I know we're short of time.
Of course.
But,
no. Yeah,
the opportunity to utilize large language models like Claude for document management is really good, but it comes at the risk of confidential, sensitive data. Are there any suitable tools out there that sanitizes an agent maybe that you can plug in that desensitizes those aspects of it before you upload any of those documentation?
Yeah. And is there one off the shelf? I think I have seen a few off the shelf, but we haven't used any off the shelf in regards to that. But what we typically find, especially in data sensitive environments, government councils, regulated, medical, whatever it means, you can pull the transcription and delete the recording, and then just make sure that the recording is actually deleted, because that's the key thing that people want to make sure that they can't go back to a recording and say a local or federal government lawsuit. So you want to be able to delete that recording process. But then once you've captured that data, you can then how do I say this? Bake in whatever instructions you want. So if you want to say in that particular conversation or in that meeting or whatever business structure you have set up, you're going to make sure you're removing all the sensitive data out of that conversation. So it's only focused on a particular topic. You bake that into the instructions because you want to make sure that then, if it's family related or personal related, it wipes all that out completely. It just focuses on this particular topic or conversation. But that's all based on the instructions on how you build the AI model into your business.
Cool.
I think, Justin, worth adding, Justin, to we are starting to see conversations occur where people are internalizing and going backwards almost a decade, where they're having an internal server running on site and then housing could be all of your data, your dataverse, if you want to call it that, sucking in your various SaaS applications and all your data to have data in one spot, and then applying LLMs and models against that and automations against that. So there's a range of options now that you can use and have that internally, which also means tokenomics and running all these tokens doesn't have to be a part of that either. And so it's horses for courses now about how you can actually control this journey yourself. That is now a possibility.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where like the Security of Critical Infrastructure Act and Privacy Acts go in terms of that, because I think that would probably dictate that in the long run.
Yeah, we've been waiting for 3 years and it still hasn't come into Australia. So I'm waiting for the legislation from 1984 to change.
84. Crazy.
But EU is doing a big push in this space, so I think we're just going to follow off the back of them, how they're doing it, and then eventually our government. I know we've just spent $60 million or something ridiculous setting up these innovation centres, AI centres. I don't know what the AI centres are going to be doing in the country, but anyway, the government's spending this money to try and go down this direction. I think there's no real conversation around it just yet.
Yeah, and considering how much we spent on the NBN, and we still couldn't get it right.
Yep.
We're still trying to, I think.
No comment.
Exactly right. Exactly
I'll tell you
right.
the facts. What you do with those facts is up to you.
Exactly. Well, I'm conscious of time, everyone. It's been a wonderful webinar. Does anyone have any further questions before we close out?
And what I'm keen for the next webinar is there any particular topic you'd love to dive into deeper?
Great question.
For us, I sort of have this like that fork in the road. Like, at what point, what sort of figures are we in practical terms does it cost to develop? What sort of infrastructure do you need? What sort of operating costs with contact hours with specialists in programming? What sort of running costs do you have for the upkeep of dedicated server spaces, etc.? I think that will be a really important thing, so that becomes a because when we make decisions around investments in these, we've got to know what the return on investment is going to be. So having a good outlay of what those costs might be would be a good starting point for a small company.
I think that's awesome. Thank you, Justin. We've taken those notes. Kristen, I know you're there. Did you hear that? That's for our next webinar, something along those lines. Fantastic. Anything else anyone like to raise for a close out? Well, thank you everyone for your time. It's been sincerely appreciated. I know it's at the time of day, and time is always hard to give, but also get back, which is really, really important. I sincerely think about it. Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate that, and I'll hand you over to Darren to finish.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. That was a great conversation, great webinar. As running over time has shown, and I think definitely drinking from a fire hose, and I think big takeaway for me was 10 years ago, an AI agent took 50,000 lines of codey things in a spreadsheet in 9 months, and now it's minutes. So hang on for the journey, put some guardrails around it, and enjoy, and we'll be bringing you another one real soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have
Thanks,
a great day.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day. Cheers.
Well prepared. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Justin.